Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 127. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for tuning in this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, happy 4th of July. Hopefully it was an enjoyable and good one for you. We're actually recording this on 4th of July evening because I know you're going to be out of town this weekend, and I know that was already planned, but I feel like you're escaping maybe the end of the West Coast with the earthquakes that came through today. Did you survive them? Did you feel them? I know you're in Nevada. But...
Yeah, you know, the funny thing about that is that happened this morning, and that happened, I guess, close to Bakersfield, California. You know, when you look at the map to Ridgeview or Ridgeland or wherever that happened at, it's not too terribly far from Las Vegas. I think as a crow flies, it's like 250 miles. Okay. You know, and there were evidently some people that are saying they felt it here. And I, you know, we didn't. None of us did. I mean, if I didn't see it on the news, I wouldn't even have known it. But yeah, that hits a little close to home when you get one that close there. But yeah, hope everybody over that way is safe. I think that's Dr. Mel is like. What would it be, northwest of there by quite a bit of ways. I'm sure she's gone through a few earthquakes before too, so hopefully any of our listeners live in that immediate area, hopefully they're fine. But no, I you know, like I said, some people had felt it here evidently. I didn't.
Yeah, you were razzing me for living in the PA humidity, but at least Pennsylvania won't be floating in the Pacific Ocean at some point in the next 15
Well,
years.
see, at some point, I think I'm going to have waterfront property here. You know, if I can live long enough, I think the state of California will just drop right off into the ocean there, and then Las Vegas will have oceanfront property there. But yeah,
in the long real estate game, aren't you?
Absolutely, and you know, I go from living in the South with all those. You know, look, I couldn't wait to get away from that humidity and hurricane season and tornadoes. I mean, I was done with all that. And you know, one of the selling points about, you know, before we moved out here was thinking, boy, at least, you know, no real natural disasters out this way. and here we have about a earthquake, 6 point something, I guess, magnitude hit, you know, about 250 miles to the west of us.
Yeah, it didn't seem too severe in terms of damage as far as I'm aware. Just a long earthquake. Apparently it lasted quite longer than usual, but I'm glad everybody's okay. And I hope all the Steelers Nation is having a happy and safe 4th of July weekend. Apologize if you hear any background noise on my end. There are fireworks going off in the background. Neighbor, I think, is shooting off some stuff, so apologize for that. And on a related note, I know that Dave and I talked about earlier this week, we were hopefully going to get John Eisenberg, the beat reporter for the Baltimore Ravens. He had some scheduling conflicts, obviously because of the 4th of July weekend, so we're going to try to get him on for next week, right, Dave? We're going to try to figure something out?
Yeah, he said sometime next week will be fine,
okay.
So we're going to try to schedule him, I think, for next Friday should be good.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. So we'll have him to talk Ravens on next week. But what I want to start with today, Dave, is you've kind of gone through, because we're in the dead zone of the offseason right now, you've gone back through some of the tape of this rookie class, specifically Diontae Johnson. I know it's actually funny, I listened to the podcast from right after he was drafted the other night, and you were talking about how you had just gone through his 2018 tape, hadn't really been able to go through years prior to that. I know that you've kind of really combed through 2017 from Diontae Johnson. So what's your impressions on his game?
Yeah, and to make it clear enough, I think I put this in the article that I put up today as well too. Is, you know, I had already watched a little bit of 2017 tape, but you know, obviously a lot of my concentration right after he was drafted was to watch the 2018 stuff and then dig into some of the 2017 stuff. You know, initially, and then I knew at a later date I'd be able to go in a little bit deeper on that. And, you know, you look at his stats and the differential between his receptions, in 2017, and then the stats that he put up then versus 2018. He had a drop off in 2018, and you and I even talked just the other day, talking about Logan Woodside and the quality of the quarterback, and how it really was apparent that when looking at his 2017 tape, that it's probably better, and obviously quality of quarterback play comes into play there. Now, granted, Logan Woodside, should not have been in the running for the Heisman, which he wasn't. But you go back and, man, I got to tell you, Alex, I think I've watched everything but what was the game that I didn't get to see? The one that Elon? Is that didn't they open with Elon?
It sounds right.
In 2017, I'm trying to pull this.
I'm surprised. I'm not surprised if you weren't able to locate it.
Elon
versus Alito.
That and VMI, you can't find that. I mean, you can find bits and pieces of that VMI game, but not the whole thing. And let me just pull this up right here in 2017. Yeah, the Elon game I could not find. I watched the Nevada game, watched the Tulsa game, watched the Miami game, watched the Eastern Michigan game, Central Michigan, Akron, watched the Ball State game, Northern Illinois, Ohio. Did I watch Bowling Green? Yes, I watched Bowling Green, Western Michigan, Akron again, and Appalachian State. So yeah, I mean,
you got Mac fever over there, Dave.
I do. I mean, to tell you the truth, I guess then, let's see, he had 74 receptions total in 2017. I guess I watched 70 of them. In total there, and going through and trying to, I didn't want to. My method in the madness was to pull out traits, clips with traits more than anything. Because people say, quality of competition and quality of corner. Yeah, look, I mean, that argument's going to be, one that we're having for whoever we're talking about, until the end of time. It wasn't so much to prove that, big plays here and there. I wanted to pull out specific traits and see if I could match as many good wide receiver traits, out of that 2017 film as I could. And I was able to do that. You see some contested catches in his tape. You see his ability to tuck the ball quickly and get yards after the catch, even in things such as the as a quick tunnel screen or a wide receiver screen. You see him be able to make guys miss in the open field. Let's see, you obviously the route running aspect of it, that quick first step of his ability to get off the line, whether it be obviously in off coverage and then against some press coverages as well. How many times? I mean, I can't count the number of times that I see him get the opposing cornerback to flip those hips the wrong way, and then the gates just open at that point. And I don't think that's by mistake or just, it's a good first step. I mean, that's one thing we've heard about him since he was drafted, of how well he does of getting off the line and varying his releases. And boy, you see him get some instant separation on some of those, those quick slants and stuff like that. His ability to go get the deep ball. I mean, we see that. His ability to stack cornerbacks. We see his ability into route running in short areas, such as inside the red zone, him able to run some of those slot fades. We see the ability, once again, like I said, the contested catches, the bad ball catching, if you will. Look, he's not a guy that's known for making a lot of contested catches in college, but he did. It's on his tape, and it's specifically on his 2017 tape, that aspect of it. We see the body control, the ability to judge the football in flight as well. That's on his 2017 tape. So, going through all that, and I forget how many clips I have in that post, and I apologize if that post takes a little bit longer to load than others because there being so many clips on it. I mean, I could have put 10 more in there and felt fine by myself, but I wanted to load as quick as possible there. But, I mean, what in that post, in those clips that I posted, do you not see that as far as a positive trait goes, that you wish you would have saw?
I think you see basically all the traits that we talked about when he came out, that you heard from the national media, from the things that Kevin Colbert and Daryl Drake and Mike Tomlin talked about. So I don't think there's anything in there that's surprising or that left me wanting more. I think that you're right. Statistically, it was by far his best season. He had his best quarterback play. And that's the really interesting thing with that was 2017 year. It was such a good year. It was basically his first year of college football. He played a little bit his freshman year, rotational guy. I think he had, 10 or 12 catches, and then he got hurt in 2016 with, I want to say it was a foot injury. I don't quite remember what exactly the injury was, but had his 2016 season totally wiped out. So he misses his year, then comes back and has a fantastic season with a competent quarterback. So I think that was really the first, real look at Diontae Johnson. It was also his best tape.
I think 2017 was his best tape, and not that it's a slap on his wrist saying that he didn't make a lot of progress, and I just don't think he had much to progress in 2018.
Mm-hmm. And the quarterback play really hurt him.
Right, and the quarterback play really did hurt him. Now, if he did anything probably better in 2018, and probably had to, was be able to cut off them curls and those comebacks and make sure he worked back to the quarterback a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he caught? I'm sorry to cut you off, but do you think he caught more bad balls in 2018 because of the quarterback issues, or do you think it was about the same?
Oh, wow.
It'd
be tough for me to guess on that. Okay. I would guess that they're about the same. And look, make no mistake about it, his 2017 wasn't flawless. He had a drop deep down the middle of the field. Was it the Eastern Michigan game? I watched so much of that tape last week here. He had one that would have been, it would have been a touchdown, and he has like 10-yard separation, and he just lost concentration on it. Yeah. It was just so easy. He just it was an assumed catch that he just took his eyes off of it and he dropped it. There are a few drops scattered throughout his tape, not only 2017 but 2018 as well too. That's one thing that we're going to have to watch for. There are, and I think I've made this clear a few times. There are a couple of double catch issues, with him. But for the most part, he is a hands catcher. He does pluck the ball nicely out of the air. Occasionally, you will see him do the double catch and all. The thing that we want to hope to not see a lot of is those double catches, if you will, and some ball security issues after the catch. Not putting the ball in the right arm for one thing. Second, not being cognizant of players coming up from behind him in the open field when he has that 20 yards and then being able to knock it out from behind. So, simple things, stuff that you'd kind of maybe expect with a young wide receiver. But I guess what I'm getting at here is, man, I have learned so much the last, I guess, 2 or 3 years about grading and scouting wide receivers. And Diontae Johnson is certainly the high side of, man, okay, that's the kind of stuff we need to look for. There's a lot of good in his tape when it comes to qualities that you look for. And really, I'm embarrassed how we didn't really know. No, I think, wasn't it Daniel that broke down Diontae before the draft? Or was
I think he had you? It wasn't me. I think Daniel had the pre-draft. Either him or Tom had the pre-draft profile.
We just missed this kid. Mm-hmm. A lot of people had him as a 4th, 5th, 6th round draft pick. The more you get into his tape, it really makes you wonder how he even fell to the 3rd, to be quite honest with you. I think 3rd was, though, good value for him. He probably wouldn't have lasted too much longer than that. So for those people that think, the Steelers reached there because of public opinion, I think that's off. This guy's a slam dunk 3rd round draft pick and could have potentially even gone somewhere in the 2nd round. And once again, like I said, I've learned so much about being able to about future grading of wide receivers by watching 2 years of his tape in total here. Now, one thing I want to go, I'll let you go ahead and ask whatever questions you have, and then I have a kind of a quick rebuttal for you here.
Okay, well, you have a rebuttal for a question.
Or not a rebuttal, but an angle or something for you to comment on, not a rebuttal.
Well, I don't have a particular question. I was just going to say 2 quick points, and one can become a question. But I admit that I thought it was a reach as soon as the pick was made because I thought he was going to be more of a day 3 guy, and I think he even said he thought he'd be more of a back end round 3, round 4 type player. But remember, Daryl Drake kind of spilled the beans after the pick and said that had the Steelers not taken him, Tampa Bay would have selected him, I think, 4 or 6 spots later at pick number 70. The Bruce Arians was mad that they didn't get Diontae Johnson, so I think the league viewed him as a mid-ish, third-round pick, maybe late third-round selection. So the value, ultimately, I'm fine on, and at this point, I don't care because he's the player, and he's either going to work out or not. You're not going to care about where he was slotted. You're just going to care about the production. With the drops, I would say, because I remember from his 2018 tape that I thought they were, because not all drops are created equal. You can have drops for different reasons. I thought his biggest issue, and you mentioned it a moment ago, was focus. Is it fair to say that was the biggest reason that led to his drops, was just not focusing and seeing the ball into his hands?
Yeah, just not making that perfect, shape with the hands and watching the ball all the way in. I think hours on the jugs machine will help a little bit with that, doing the old A-B thing and catching the 150 balls or whatnot, I think will help solve that. But I do think of his concentration lapses more than anything, because he, like I said, he did have some great bad ball catches, and predominantly he showed that he likes to catch with his hands. He seems to have strong hands, probably not as strong hands as, say, James Washington, does, but he's got good hands nonetheless. So, would I be surprised to see him have 2 or 3 bad drops a season moving forward? Probably not, but I would hope that we wouldn't see more than that.
Yeah, I think just playing in the NFL and knowing how important it is, I think heightens that focus for any player, especially one coming from Toledo. So I think he won't have the greatest hands. I think that there will be a drop or two, but I think it's largely a focus issue, and I think that's something that can easily be corrected and coached. And like I said, just when you play in the NFL, you quickly realize how important it is to have focus. So I think those drop issues won't be as persistent as maybe they were at Toledo.
All right, now kind of ignore what you know now about a couple of these players in the NFL already, but I want you to think back to what you watched of the college tape of Juju Smith-Schuster. And remember, neither one of us watched hardly any Juju Smith-Schuster tape until after he was drafted. Like I said, sometimes these guys fall through the cracks. We don't think the Steelers have interest in them, and that's something else that we probably have both learned over the course of the last three years. You probably just need to take the list of top 15 or 20, especially at some of these positions, and just scout them,
Yeah, Juju was a much bigger surprise, though, than Diontae Johnson, I would say. Sure. I thought Johnson, where he went, was higher than what I thought, but he was obvious. He was brought in for a pre-draft visit. We knew he was on the radar. Juju they talked to him once, and that was all they needed to know to pick him.
And we knew there was a lot of love with James Washington almost right from the get-go. Now, try your best to ignore what you've seen in the NFL out of 2 of these 3 players, and go back to what you remember studying about all 3, James Washington, Juju, and Diontae, as far as their college tape goes. How would you rank those guys?
In terms of just overall tape, overall grade?
How would you rank all 3 of those guys, overall grade tape, college tape alone?
Juju, Diontae Johnson, James Washington.
Now, I'm surprised that you went Juju first, because Juju's college tape was good, but I didn't find it to be as spectacular as Diontae's. Now, maybe there's some recency bias there, because I just watched, like I said, 10 more games of 2017 tape on Diontae, but I do remember going through. And I watched. Every target James Washington had at Oklahoma State. I think a good portion of every target that Juju had in his couple seasons here at USC, and then now pretty much damn near every target Diontae's had at Toledo. What was it about Juju that puts him ahead of Diontae?
Well, I could be biased here, considering what Juju's become as an NFL receiver. It'd be easy to say that he's the top receiver I saw off that list. But I remember writing a really glowing article on him the day or 2 after he was drafted, and I thought the things that impressed me the most about Juju was really a combination of his football IQ, how smart he was for how young he was. I thought he just played like a much more mature receiver than he was 20 years old when he was drafted. He played like a guy that had been in the NFL, just the nuances of the game and his football IQ, working in the slot, going over the middle of the field, I thought really was impressive, and something that was pretty rare to see in any college receiver, let alone one as young as he was.
I just don't remember the route running being as crisp. I mean, I definitely.
It wasn't. He wasn't as crisp a route runner, but they're different body types. So
right.
I'm not going to expect the same things.
But I do remember him being more of a contested catcher.
Yeah. Well, he played the slot. You know, he's not as sharp with his route running. He's not going to be the better separation guy. Diontae Johnson. You're going to have more contested catches.
I raved about James Washington, but I think after watching all, trying to not let recency bias play into this as much as possible, I just don't remember being able to circle that many traits with Juju, as I did with Diontae Johnson. So I think I would rank them Diontae, Juju, and then James Washington.
I wonder if I can find that article that I wrote, because I remember going through his tape and it was really impressive tape from Juju. But I mean that's fair. But I respect that.
And here's the thing though, all three of them are really three different kind of receivers technically.
Yeah, Diontae Johnson's an X, James is a Z, Juju's best in the slot, so they're all going to have different traits that let them win at those positions.
Boy, how nice would it be to have these three guys just all be flat out studs for the next couple of years?
Yeah, that should be nice, but. They got a long ways to go before we get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. But I thought that crept into my head this afternoon ahead of the podcast. So you without a doubt would go Juju, then Diontae, then Washington.
Yeah, I mean, trying to think back to that tape and everything. I'm trying to find that article that I have. I'm somewhere around the area. I have an article from April 29, 2017 that says how Juju Smith-Schuster could become Pittsburgh's slot receiver sooner than you think, because I think people kind of initially saw him as a bit of a project because of his youth. I'm just reading the article here. Quote, I say, my first thought watching Juju Smith-Schuster, wait, this dude is 20 because he plays like someone 5 years older. And so I just thought the maturity that he showed off the field, but also on the field was rare. Diontae Johnson is an older guy. I think he's 23 years old. So some of the things, I know he hasn't played as much, but he's had more time, I guess, and a little older guy that you would expect to be a little more advanced at that point in his career.
Boy, there's no reason to think Diontae can't get on this field quicker, and I think that's one thing that I come away with that 2017 tape. Look, again, this, I don't know how much recency bias is in this, but and this might lead into a little bit into our next topic. One of the things that you've written about here in the last few days is, I don't know, why can't we have 4 or 5 wide receivers on the field? Because I think you got to, if Deontay's progressed this offseason as much as they say he has, and we'll know when you start getting your reports out of training camp and all here, man, they got to try to find a way to get this guy on the field sooner rather than later.
Yep, him, or it could be Switzer, Eli Rogers. I mean, there could be a whole list of positions. I mean, I think the position as a whole is obviously weaker without Antonio Brown, but it's still a deep position that has 6-7 guys that you can make a legitimate case of making this 53-man roster. So I'm pretty sure you are going to see 4 and 5 wide receiver sets. Now, don't misunderstand me, because I think people got the wrong impression in the post that I wrote. This isn't going to be something that you see 70% of the time in 2019. It's going to be something used here and there, but they used it 36 times in the final 3 weeks of the season, and that was when Eli Rogers came back, when they had kind of the extra depth at wide receiver. So why not? When you have the investments into all these guys, and you sign Moncrief, you draft Washington, you draft Diontae Johnson, and then you have talent like Eli and Switz, and obviously Juju's still there. Why would you not, spread the field out and get those guys on the field? Especially, and this was part of the post of what I wrote, what if you lose Vance McDonald? He goes down with an injury, or he's not going to play 100% of the snaps. He's going to play probably about 55 or 60% of the snaps. So this is a way to kind of get different personnel groupings if you don't have Vance McDonald on the field.
And, I think either you or Matthew recently wrote, too, about the empty and all as well, too. That's a way to give James Conner a few snaps off, on top of it there. And we have seen them, we saw them run a little bit more empty last year than they have had in previous years there as well, too. So, I mean, look, especially if, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to vote against them keeping 6 wide receivers right now. Now, these things have a funny way of working themselves out. That's my go-to kind of thing this time of year. Injuries or what have you, they have a funny way of working themselves out. But as things stand right now, I mean, it's hard to see the team not keeping 6.
been with 4 or 5 receivers on the field last year. He was 25 of 37. That's more than 2/3 of his passes completed for 204 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. So a short, quicker pass game, which you would expect. You want the ball in the receiver's hands quick. You don't have much in protection. The ball's got to get out hot. But it was efficient. I mean, the guys make plays in space, so that you create these man coverage beaters and create these rub routes and quick passes to get guys the ball immediately, and then let them make plays in space. So I think it's a good concept.
You think we could see something like that, with the empty and with the heavy wide receiver sets, at least, on average, a series a game? So in other words, let's say 7 times 16 would be. That's still kind of probably low, right? 7, about 100 plays. That's too high though, probably, right?
I mean, it's just going to be game plan dependent, situation dependent, and the half and the game is going to probably lend itself to doing more of that. If you're behind in games, you're going to be probably doing more of that. For a particular game plan for a defense that hasn't enough great depth in the secondary, might be hit hard with injuries. You just don't have the talent to begin with. I mean, that's times that you may want to use it. So it's hard for me to try to nail down a number, but I think there are going to be 3 or 4 games this year where you see quite a bit of use of 4 and 5 receiver sets.
Especially if the opposition doesn't have the kind of speed on defense,
Yeah, because how do you match against 5 receivers? You don't have 5 corners.
Exactly. I mean, from what teams used to do with the Steelers without Ryan Chase here and there, maybe the shoe's on the other foot here, But yeah, I mean, look, and sometimes a good offense can be a good defense too. And as we've said, several times, hopefully this offense isn't having to drive as many long fields this year. Hopefully Ben's not going to have to throw the football 600 plus times this year on top of it. But yes, Antonio Brown was a huge loss. You're not going to hear that come out of Alex and my mouth here saying that, it's just, they'll be easily to get past A.B. loss here. But I do have some talent at the wide receiver position, especially if a guy like James Washington can step up and provide that deep threat. If Moncrief can come in and get in tune right away with Ben Roethlisberger, and if they can get Diontae Johnson on the field sooner rather than later. And, look, Eli Rogers showed us some good things when he's been healthy. The thing that I worry most about Switzer and most about Eli Rogers is neither of those two guys are really good after the catch guys.
Yeah, but if you can just find ways to use man coverage beaters to win in that way, because they're both good route runners, and they can do that. I just think it's going to open up more options, more flexibility, and more creativity for Randy Fichtner, and that's the big call for Randy Fichtner this year. That's his call to action is to be creative in getting receivers open, doing a better job scheming them open, because it is going to be tougher with no AB and Juju getting all the attention.
How do you feel now about this offense as opposed to the day after the team traded Antonio Brown?
Well, they still got to prove it. I mean, it sounds nice right now here in early July, but I still have those same concerns of, yes, everyone recognizes it's going to be a tougher, slog for this offense without Antonio Brown, but I don't think you fully realize it until you actually see it and how much this offense may struggle and how much the dynamic changes without 84 on the field. So I still have concerns, but if that red zone efficiency can stay high, and I read about that the other day, that I still believe that it can remain high, top 5, potentially even, again, best in the league as it was last year, then the offense, generally speaking, will be a strength of this team.
Here's one thing this team has to do better, and I've talked about this quite a bit recently. They have to run the ball better. Not all that fuss and nonsense last year about run pass. Look, they don't have to have what is ideal run pass balance? It's whatever it takes to win a game. That's what that is.
100%.
Right? I mean, am I wrong
100%.
there?
No, 100%. The idea of balance is dumb. You do what it takes to win the game. I don't care if that's running it 50 times. I don't care if that's passing it 50 times. Do what it takes to win.
Now, obviously, if you have a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, you're going to hope to be able to run the football better, right? In the fourth quarter, because that helps eat up time, and it's a little bit less risky, on top of it. So generally, teams that can get those two possession leads in the fourth, That's really when you see some running. Now, not to say that teams shouldn't run in the first quarter or throughout the game, if possible. But I got so, and it doesn't take much to set me off. But last year, saying, well, the problem is they don't have enough balance, run and pass. Well, you know what? James Conner had a great 2018 season. Nobody's going to deny that. But play by play, on average. And we've talked about running back success rates already quite a bit, and I told you I was going to dive down further into this. Play by play, they weren't a good running team from a successful play rate aspect. And people had wanted me to go back and dive into this, and here's what I did. The thing that stuck out to me most, and I think I wrote about this a little bit last year and talked about it as well too. They've got to not only be a better running team when they decide to run on first downs in 2019, they especially need to be a better running team on first downs early in games. They were horrible in those two categories last season. And here's the data that I came across here. And I put this in table format for everybody to read here. Let's see. First, and here's the rushes that I dealt with. 1st and 10 or less. I threw out all rushes over 1st and 10 because it's just not fair to add that in there. So 1st and 10 or less rushing success rate last year was 48.98%. And that success rate, once again, is based on them gaining 40% of the total yards needed on first down. So if it's 1st and 10 and they gain 4 more yards, that's a successful run. If it's first down and goal from the 2 and they gain a yard, that's a successful run there. So to reiterate, the rates below that I posted, or research that I posted, were first down runs of 10 or less yards only. Now, that 48.98% success rate last year ranked the Steelers 16th overall, and thus right in the middle of the NFL. Now, on first down runs needing exactly 10 yards, their success rate was a little bit lower at 4.8 or 4.57, so 48.57%. So not that much difference there in that aspect of it. So I wanted to drill down even farther and say, okay, now, what was this team in first quarter of games? Because I remember it being so poor there. Well, the Steelers attempted to run on 1st and 10 or less in the first quarter of games a total of 47 times last season. Only 19 of those 47 runs were deemed successful ones, and that's a lowly 40.4% success rate, and there were just 3 other teams with lower rates than they had last season. I believe they were the Jets, the Cardinals, and drawing a blank of who the other team was there. But that lets you know how poorly they ran on 1st and 10 or less in the first quarter. Now, 2 of those 12 successful runs or actually James Conner had 33 of those 47 attempts. 12 of them were successful, and 2 of those were him needing to gain just 1 yard on, and those were both short touchdowns. One against the Carolina Panthers, and the other one against the who was it? The Chargers.
Chargers.
Yeah, later in the season there. So, despite the belief that everybody's going to be yelling for, you got to have balance. You got to have balance. The thing that I'm looking for the most in 2019 when it comes to this running game, Alex, is can they run better, more successfully on first down, and can they run better, more successfully on first down early in games? If they can do that, that's going to help. And look, here's another thing I think has been proven over time here is good running games does not help play action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But a good running game will help soften up a defense a little bit. Having to get another guy in the box, to help defend against a run, might help you in certain aspects of your passing game, especially if it's on a down and distance where there's a little bit of uncertainty of what the offense is going to do there. So if they can manage to do those two things, and Lord knows I'm going to be tracking them, first down and early, first down or early in games on first down, then that's going to make this offense that much better.
I know you've just been going through the numbers, but is there anything that you can think back to on the tape that is the reason why that success rate was so low? Is there any particular issue?
No, and that's next. I mean, I've got
Yeah, okay.
30. I've got, what did I tell you, total number? I mean, look, there was some missed block. You look at that game against Kansas City. In fact, I got the still of that blown up play for lost yardage right there on a 1st and 10 with 13:04 early in the game there. I think there was a blown block by somebody.
On the right side with Pouncey and Finney, I think, was the cash throw, and Pouncey screwed it up.
Yeah, something there, But here's the thing that I'm going to try to do next week is go through. How many runs did I tell you there were total?
46.
47 times last season. 1st and 10 or less in the first quarter. So to try to go look at those running plays that weren't successful and see if I can find a common cause there.
I know you can't do this for any team because it'd be unfair, but I'm just curious what the number would be if you took out the Raiders game because of how abysmal that running attack was with Jalen Samuels making his first start.
Which game?
The Raiders game when they just couldn't do anything. I mean, they couldn't do anything, but they definitely could not run the football.
I'm not sure how many of those were. I mean, I can find out how many of those were 1st and 10, I guess. Mm-hmm. Are you talking about earlier in the game or just overall 1st and 10?
Yeah, just what was their run success rate in that Oakland game? As
a whole, I'll have to pull that.
Or on 1st and 10. I mean, either or, but it wasn't good. They couldn't run the football.
Yeah, why don't you ask me that on Tuesday, and okay. I'll have that answer for you on that game.
All right, yeah, I'm curious to know what the issue is. I think it's really good to identify, but I'm curious. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's a combination of things. Running backs could do better, O-line could do better, play call could do better, but I'm curious if you can find one common thread between those that might give a solution.
And for all the kudos and all that Mike Munchak got, and as much good as we talk about that offensive line, that's a little disturbing that they're not as good on first down in 10 runs.
Yeah. Should be better. Should be a strong running attack. No question.
Absolutely, it should be.
All right, Dave. Speaking of success rates, you were talking about the run success rate. How about the defensive success rate? And this number surprised me. I think they came in 4th in the league in defensive success rate, but I know you're a little skeptical of that number. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and this is something that next gen stats highlighted and NFL Network put it on the air and all there. And look, I mean, overall and this is overall success rates, and next gen stats decided to use the model of 40% yards needed on first down, 50% of the yards needed on second down, and obviously 100% of the yards needed on 3rd and 4th down to deem a successful play. So a lot of different. It depends on. Some people like the 45% on first down. Some people like the 40%. We talked about the new one that on what was it, Football Perspective, of throwing out the runs. Every run over 6 yards is a successful run. Those kind of things there. But just based on what they did, their defensive success rates. They had the Jaguars defensive success rate leading the league at 56.7. They had the Ravens second place at 56.5. Texans at 3rd at 54.4, and the Steelers in 4th place at 54.2, followed by the Bears at 53.5. That's all fine and dandy, but and I went and I reran the numbers myself, throwing out quarterback kneel downs and spikes and those kind of things that are caught, really the defense didn't do anything but stand there kind of thing. And I got close to the same rankings there, but I also broke them down kind of by downs as well too. And really across the board, to be honest with you, Alex, I mean, not bad success rates across the board. I mean, they were 4th in the league overall on defensive success rate on first down. They were 4th overall in the league on second down using this criteria. They were 8th overall on 3rd downs, and then on 4th downs, which there was only 17 plays or something like that. They ranked 11th overall in that category there. So, you look at this and you look at the success rate and say, well, why wasn't the defense better?
Well, I could tell you why. It's the same thing I've been talking about this whole offseason. They didn't turn the football over.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not getting those, I mean, 15 total turnovers plays a big factor in that. Mm-hmm. And by not getting those turnovers, those are going to impact your one of the main stats I like to use is the adjusted net yards per passing attempt. I mean, you're going to really reduce that number. You start having some turnovers, some interceptions there when it comes to that stat there. So that's one thing. The other thing is you could have 9 out of 10 plays be successful plays by your defense, but what if you give up something over your head? Yep. All it takes is one successful play and you're back. The chains have been moved and they're in scoring position and all like that on top of it. So this is using overall play success rates to me gives a false sense of security, because once again, you look, we know last year the Jaguars defense was good, right? Mm-hmm. We know the Ravens defense was good, but they had the same problem the Steelers had. They couldn't get the football from the opponent. The Texans defense, do you remember the Texans defense being that good? I'm trying to remember back.
I don't remember too clearly. I think they were okay. They were up and down.
And we know the Bears defense, especially when Mac showed up there. That was a pretty damn good defense right there, as well too. So I guess my point is, look, I passed along this information because that's what we do, especially during the slow period of the off season when there's something like that surfaces. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of defensive successful play rates as a whole. I really think you get a better aspect if you were to look at success rates against the run and then kind of use those and compare them alongside adjusted net yards per passing attempt stats there.
And we know that just by the feel of this defense. This is not a top 5 defense last year. Now, I said before, I think if...
Right, the eye test.
Yeah. I think largely if everything else stays the same in terms of how players play and just, the pressure that they got and stuff like that, and they can create more takeaways, then you'll have maybe a top 5 to top 10 defense. I think that's possible, but we know this defense was not as good as that one number seems to indicate. I think that number is pretty skewed.
Right, and look, this defense, if they want to make a run this year, if the team in general wants to make a run this year, this defense probably has to be at least top 12, and hopefully top 10.
Yeah, but again, to be specific, because what is top 10, what does top 12 mean?
Sure.
I know I just said it too, but it's 25 takeaways. That's the number they got here.
Amen.
That's what 17 of the last 18 Super Bowl winners have done. That's what the Steelers have done when they've gone to the Super Bowl. 25 is the magic number, and they've done that, I think, once in the last 7 years. So it's not something that's a given by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Give me the takeaways, and the rest will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to try to segue here into one man that probably, honestly, won't become a Steeler, but if he does, maybe down the line, he'll be able to help this team create takeaways. The supplemental draft is coming up, I believe, on July 10th. That's when it was held last year. I believe there was one report from Sports Illustrated that said it's going to be held on July 10th this year. And one of the biggest names that came in pretty late in the process is Washington State free safety Jalen Thompson. Now, I'll admit, Dave, that I haven't watched him yet. I honestly probably won't until if he's selected by the Steelers, but he's a guy that would have been probably taken potentially day 2 next year had he not been ruled ineligible. He was ruled ineligible because of a violation of NCAA rules. It's unclear exactly what those rules are, but he's going to be in the supplemental draft this month, and he's a guy that I think has had two interceptions 2 years ago and 4 interceptions last year, so 6 the past 2 years, and is regarded as somebody that is very likely to be taken by somebody in this upcoming draft. And if he's sitting there in the 5th, 6th round, it's with the way the draft goes, teams just wait and they submit the pick whenever they want to when it's their turn in line. I wouldn't be opposed to the Steelers maybe taking a flyer on that.
And they've never done that.
You shot it down pretty quickly.
They never participated in a supplemental draft.
But that's not. Hey, if Cobra likes the guy, it's not
sure,
going to stop him from doing
it. There's a first time for everything, and I was hoping you were going to tell me that you were able to watch some tape on him, because I haven't right yet. What are, from reliable sources that you've read, what's the MO on him?
that he's a guy that is almost certain to be taken, so he's been viewed highly enough, even with some off-the-field concern, him not obviously being eligible to play his final year at Washington State, that he's a guy that's been able to create turnovers and is a decent athlete. So, again, I haven't looked at him just because the odds of him becoming a Steeler, the odds of him going to any one team are pretty low, but we know there is a pretty big need at safety, specifically free safety. You got Sean Davis, who's, your starter, but, Jordan Dangerfield's your backup, has played there before, but you'd like to add another name to that mix. I know Cameron Kelly got some buzz in the spring, but still I don't think that spot's going to be guaranteed to Kelly by any stretch of the imagination. So, it's a guy that I just want to throw out there. The draft's going to come up soon. He's going to be taken. It's just a question of who and what pick is going to be used on him.
4th or 5th round, you think, is where he's going to go?
Yeah, I felt like maybe a 4th or 5th. If I'm Pittsburgh, I might be looking at a 5th. I mean, the one big thing that tells me that they won't use a pick on him, other than the fact that they never have taken a player in the supplemental draft, is that since they already traded their 3rd-round pick for next year in the Devin Bush trade, that they're probably not going to burn another future pick when they've already sent one out. But I just want to make a note of it because, I think there's at least a fit there, and that makes me a little intrigued.
Man, if you're going to at least also, if you're going to spend a future pick like that too, you better be locked into that guy making year 53, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, if it's a 5th-round pick, the odds of that are pretty good. And then there were 2 players taken last year, so there's a little more activity, I think, with some of these guys, a little more intrigue. Teams willing to roll that dice. So I just want to throw it out there. Obviously, again, the odds of him becoming a Steeler are very, very low, 5% or lower, but there is, I think, some talent. He's going to be taken, and it does fit on paper a need for the Steelers.
He's going to end up with the Patriots, isn't he?
They probably, that they keep trading back and acquiring picks to use it. But we'll keep you posted, obviously. Again, I think it's set for July 10th is the supplemental draft.
All right, what else you got for me, brother Alex?
Only thing I have left is to go over the tight end position. Then we'll get to some reader emails as we've been going through, because camp is nearing. We've been going through the position group one by one. Today, the tight end group. I think we've talked about it a good bit, so I'll kind of lump in the guys that either are going to make the roster or have the inside track to make the roster, and then we'll talk about the guys that are outside looking in. The depth chart, day one at camp is probably going to be Vance McDonald, Xavier Grimble, Zach Gentry. Anything in particular you're looking at of any one of those guys? Obviously, Gentry is going to be the rookie, the unknown. A lot on Grimble, McDonald just trying to stay healthy and get through this thing.
Yeah, I don't want to see McDonald have to practice or play much during the preseason.
But I mean, not preseason, but he's never been through a camp with a team because he got traded late in 2017. Last year, he got through 3 practices. I think he got hurt in the 4th one. So, he's never been able to really go through this process before with Ben. So, it'd be nice to just get him through camp and let him hit the ground running for this side of a season for once in his Steelers career.
Right. Bless his heart. Wasn't he inactive week 1 last year?
Yeah. He missed the whole – once he got hurt in that 4th practice, he didn't play again until week 2. He didn't play until, I think,
and Lord knows with losing Jesse James and all like that, that's it. Look, I'll give Xavier Grimble this. He's working his butt off, at least according to the Instagram machine. Mm-hmm. He really is working his butt off this offseason here. The thing with him, and I think we pointed out. Look, I mean, is there really a need for me to comment on McDonald anymore?
No.
I mean, we know what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see him maybe play a bigger bit of a role. I guess maybe on 3rd downs and potentially be targeted down the field. Have a little bit bigger average yards or depth of target. I think there's a guy that you can exploit down the seams maybe a little bit more than they have previously. I think those are the two main areas that I think you could use them better at there.
Yeah, and keep him involved in the red zone. They got him involved in the red zone the back half of last year. That's got to continue.
Okay, so we know where we stand on him. Xavier Grimble, look, I mean, it's hard to see this guy not making the 53, and I know, I mean, he's got the Scarlett Fitzgerald Toussaint letter on him. Look, that fumble was ugly. I mean, there's no 2 ways about it, and somebody needs to school him how to move that football to the outside arm and. You don't have to win necessarily by taking a guy head on like that. I mean, you can cut back and live to fight another day type of thing. aspect there, and it's sad that, well, to this point right now, that's how his career is defined right now, is that one fumble on such a great play call, something that we hardly ever see them do with play action and kind of the Y cross and wide open, and for such a great play to have such a disastrous ending in a game that had a disastrous ending of it, a game that was probably a difference. Well, it was a difference in them making the playoffs. You just hate to see that. Can this guy overcome something like that? I mean, look, he's made progress throughout his career. I mean, he's become a better blocker. That's the main thing I think that I'm looking forward to see out of Xavier Grimble this year during training camp and the preseason is, can this guy become the number two, the second tight end, the guy that can block down on the inside and get those blocks done there. I think that's a biggest aspect of him, because we've seen him be able to get open down the field and make catches and run with the football out in space a few times there. But can he become a better blocker, an even better blocker?
Yeah, I think his blocking has certainly improved the last 2 years. I mean, when we talk about what does he have to do to become the number 2 tight end, for me, in a word, and I've said this before, it's consistency. I mean, you've seen the highs, you've seen the lows. He has to be able to be the same guy week in and week out, and that starts in camp. And I know that, yes, I've seen the clips that you've posted of him working out like crazy this summer, and that's good to see. I'm not knocking that at all. The dude's rocked up. He looks great getting off the bus, but we've had that story every single year.
Sure,
I mean,
we've heard, he's rocked up. Yeah, he's won the training camp bodybuilding contest.
He has. But I remember, I think last summer or 2 summers ago, there was a clip of him. He had a jugs machine inside his house, and he was catching passes off the jugs machine inside his house. It was a funny moment. But, he's always been that kind of guy. And the weird thing is with him in camp, and I don't want to speculate on medical stuff. Maybe he's got something going on, but there's always 1 or 2 practices in camp each year where he doesn't finish. He's got a soft tissue thing, or he's dehydrated. He can't finish it. So for as much as he works out and we see him rocked up and he looks good, the conditioning has always been weird, and I don't know what's going on with that. And that kind of makes him hard to trust, because if you can't get through a training camp practice in Latrobe, can you get through playing 40 snaps in a particular game in the NFL on Sunday? So that's the concern with him. But overall, just consistency. We've seen some good from him. The talent's there. Can he become a number 2 tight end in the league? Yes, but he's got to prove it on a down-to-down and game-to-game basis to earn that trust. But I agree, he's making the team. If for nothing else, who's going to take his spot?
Right, and Zach Gentry is a guy that we've talked about since being drafted. I mean, there's some positives on tape, but there's some negatives that go along with that, especially in the blocking aspect of it. And, I mean, the dude that size works against him in a lot of aspects, a lot of body, a lot of surface area that you have to protect. The bigger that you are, it's harder to come out of that stance and be the low man in those situations there. Mm-hmm. We did see him make some plays down the field, though, as a pass catcher there. Obviously, still relatively new to the position, being a converted quarterback and all there. And I think we both have agreed on this already here. I see his upside, his ceiling being exactly what walked out the door, and that's Jesse James. And to be quite honest with you, I think Jesse progressed maybe a little bit farther than maybe what I thought he would initially do coming out of the draft several years ago there. And good for him. He got himself paid this offseason. And the Steelers, there was no way they were going to be able to – you can't pay them all and can't pay a number 2 tight end what he ended up getting paid by the Lions there.
$6 million? I think he got $6 million a year.
Yeah, I mean, there were a handful of them there, a handful of number 2 tight ends, seemingly number 2 tight ends that got paid. And quite honestly, with Hawkinson over there in Detroit, it's not going to be long for Jesse's second fiddle, over there as well too. So, how quick a progression can we get out of Gentry? And really, I'm going to be relying on you on a lot of that information early on in training camp there with him.
I can't wait for the first day in camp, and I'm sure it's not the first time he's ever going to have done it, but the first time they hit the blocking sleds. That always is done really early in practice, and I've seen so many of those guys the first time they attack it. You got James Daniel watching. Mike Tomlin loves to walk over there and just kind of watch those guys and put them under the microscope. And I've seen so many of these big, raw, young tight ends. They hit the sled, they stop, and it goes nowhere. And they have to go back and do it 2-3 times. And everyone gets better by the time camp ends and everything. You kind of work out your leverage and uncoiling your hips and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, the blocking's going to be the big thing for Gentry. He's the number 3, tentatively. And to be the number 3, you got to be a good blocker. and you got to work on leverage because you're 6'8". That's going to work against you in a lot of respects. He's going to have to learn how to get low, and that's going to be the big thing for him.
Kevin Rader's out of Youngstown State, nice story, couple interesting catches he's had through his career. Obviously, look, I mean, in the game, what do you have, like 6 catches against Pitt a few years ago and all, and he did some nice things in that game, but overall, top to bottom, just athleticism is not there with him. Not particularly good in really any one phase of the game, but he is a guy that would probably project as a little bit better of a number 2 from a run blocking aspect than, I don't know, maybe anybody on this roster right now. I mean, that tells you where we're at in this kind of thing here. So, I haven't spent a lot, I got to admit, I haven't spent a lot of time watching Youngstown State tape, but I do remember putting on that Pitt game and watching, all of that and getting a good idea what he isn't than what he is, I guess. And look, we've had a lot of questions about Christian Scotland Williamson, and really I don't know how to answer those because the fact that we just have not seen, or at least I haven't seen a lot of him because he just didn't play all that much in the preseason last year. So this is a guy that spent the entire season on the practice squad. The newness is wore off. The novelty is worn off on there. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see. We should see some noticeable progression, and I'm not going to say he's got a good chance of making a roster this year because, quite honestly, I don't think he does, but I'm not basing that off of a lot of information there.
Yeah, I mean, both guys are still pretty big unknowns. Rader, I think that the one benefit for Rader is that Youngstown State was a pretty run-heavy attack. They didn't throw the ball a ton, so I think that's going to just help because it's not like he stood up like some of these tight ends do that are never asked to put their hand in the dirt and block. So that'll help him. And he was in the league last year too, wasn't he, with Green Bay or something? He's
no, he's not. You're right. But I mean, I don't think he got a lot of playing time.
Sure, but I mean, he's just gone through a camp before. This is going to be brand new, and that always helps. And then with Scotty, again, I've said this before, you'll find out pretty quickly, 3-4 practices, if there's a chance for something or not. Either you're going to see noticeable, significant improvement in his game from last year, or you're not. And if you don't, then you probably are never going to see it. Now, he'll probably make the team because they still have that exempt spot for him on the practice squad as the 11th guy, so he'll stick around in all likelihood unless he decides that he wants to leave and just go back home and he feels like the NFL is not going to work out. But neither of those guys are going to make the 53.
And there's a reason Trevor Wood has the long snapper next to his name on top of it. Now, granted, this guy a little bit more athletic than probably what I originally thought.
Yeah, I read an article in the Trib that said he was basically an emergency long snapper. It's not something that he's a tight end first and second, and a long snapper, basically if there's ever an injury. So he's a little interesting guy. There was a guy in camp a couple of years ago who had the same resume. I think his name was Bryce Davis, I want to say, from UCLA. That versatility, I think I might be wrong, but there was somebody in camp that was a tight end long snapper. So that's always nice to have that versatility. Maybe he gets a little bit of work at there in the preseason. I'm not sure. They don't have another long snapper on this team right now. Vance is the backup for game days. But again, an unknown guy. His college career was pretty light in production. He was in Arizona, transferred to Texas A&M. We'll see if he can make a splash play or two.
And once again, we're not going to have a shock face at all between now and the start of camp or now and 2 weeks into training camp. This team, or now in the start of the regular season, if this team has a tight end, that hadn't been with the team yet, ends up making the 53.
Go re-sign Jake McGee. I think he's healthy. He was in the XFL for the tryouts, so he's healthy enough to do that. Go bring him back.
Boy, he sure showed us a little bit there,
Yeah, I know that tore Achilles sucks, but he's healthy.
Yeah. I mean, there was a little something there.
Yeah, but I certainly could see tight end being a position where they trade for somebody. As we've said before, it's hard to find out who, but we'll wait till camp and see what injuries happen and how guys perform. I'd still look at maybe someone on the Jets roster as potentially, I think they're going to have to make a cut there. I know they already made some, but we'll see if maybe Jason Kuhn could still become available if Tyler Kroft gets back healthy. So we'll keep an eye on that up in Buffalo.
When you look at the offensive side of the football from top to bottom, depth and quality of depth and all tight ends where they're hurting the most.
Yeah, and that's why I said, made the reference about using some 4 or 5 receiver sets because Vance isn't going to play all the snaps, and I'm not going to force Grimble or Gentry out there if I feel like I'm going to be at a disadvantage. So we don't have to use a tight end if you don't have to. If an injury happens and you want to mix up something else, your receiver depth is good, your tight end depth is poor. Let's not force the tight ends out there if we don't have to, and I think that's why you would use some 4 and 5 receiver sets.
Here.
All right, Dave. Anything else for the tight end position? That was all I basically had. A lot of some intrigue there, but some guys who have to step up in big ways.
Absolutely. I have nothing else to add on it.
All right, let's get to some redeemos to close out the show.
All right, let's see. This one's entitled Hayden and Hargrave from John Fletcher. While I get Hargrave may have more peak years left, I'm confused why Alex says he'd rather have Hargrave be extended than Hayden. Our D-line has Hayward and Tuitt already, while our only proven player in the secondary is Joe. I'm also confused because Hargrave doesn't play a lot of snaps compared to Hayden. Alex, defend yourself.
Well, let me make it clear that I want both players back. I want Hargrave long-term. I want Hayden for at least another year in 2020. The reason why
see, if you don't have one first, they automatically think you don't want.
Well, I can understand that because I get the point. Hayden might have more value to the team, both in the position that he plays, how important that cornerback spot is, being your number one corner, and in the volume of snaps. I mean, that's a good point. The reason why, though, I said I want Hargrave done first. He's my priority to get done because Hayden wants to come back and be a Pittsburgh Steeler. He doesn't want to go to some new team, new coaching staff in his 30s. He likes the Steelers, obviously. He chose them over other teams. He likes the culture. He wants to remain in Pittsburgh. So even if the Steelers don't get a deal done with Hayden this summer and we're sitting here in February and March, I'm still confident a deal is going to get done with Joe Hayden. If Hargrave is sitting here February and March and he's a month away from free agency, I'm much less confident that he's going to want to re-sign. He's probably going to want to look at the market, see what his value is. His price is either going to drive up and it's going to go up and the Steelers going to have to pay more, or he's just going to go somewhere else. So the urgency to get Hargrave done is a lot more to me now than it is Hayden. Hayden's coming back, I think, regardless. Hargrave, like we said the podcast or two ago, Dave, if he's a month out from free agency, he's hitting free agency. He's testing that market. You're not going to be able to re-sign him before free agency, a la Ramon Foster. So it's not necessarily a value of I like Hargrave more than Hayden or anything like that. It's the urgency of get Hargrave done now, or I think he hits free agency. That's kind of my stance on that.
The defense rest.
Your Honor. Yeah. I mean, but again, I don't want to diminish Hayden. Hargrave's a special talent. You don't find too many guys like him. And if a deal does not get done this summer, I believe he's playing somewhere else in 2020. Not going to guarantee it, but I think the odds are a lot better than if a deal does not get done with Hayden this summer.
Right, and I think we're both in the camp of those guys are the most likely, to get deals done.
Yeah, I think those are probably the only two. I don't think Hilton's getting done. Davis could, but I don't like the odds of it. I think those are the two guys you just say, let's get them done now.
Right, and the only other one I think in that 5 was B.J. Finney, and we'll have to see how that works out there with him.
Yeah, you keep saying Finney. Finney's not getting done.
All right.
I will eat my hat if they do Finney this summer.
All right, I hope you have some salt.
I walked myself into that. I didn't need to say
you
that.
I know, you did it. I warned. I've told you in the past, speaking in absolutes.
Yeah, I just did it. Oh well, 4th of July.
All right, Thomas Lindsay. Thomas is from over in Bonnie, Scotland. How about that? Hi, Dave and Alex. Tam Lindsay here, a longtime listener from over in Bonnie, Scotland. I can't wait to tell my wife. Got somebody listens to me stutter in Scotland. Let's see. Just wondering who you think will be the MVP for the defense and also the MVP for the offense this year. I think TJ will light it up on defense and have a good feeling. Moncrief, now he's playing with Ben, is going to be the key for the offense. Touching wood here. I guess that means knocking. I guess touching wood means knocking on wood.
Just going to let that slide by.
Touching wood for me. Well, okay.
All right.
Touching wood here, I think it's going to be Super Bowl winning season. See how easily amused I am, man. Touching wood here, I think it's going to be a Super Bowl winning season. So keep up the good work, Dave and Alex. Thanks, Tam. Tam, thanks for the email there. Just wondering who you think MVP for the defense, and also look. Offense, I don't think it's going to be Moncrief's going to be the MVP of the offense. I think it's probably going to be a guy like Juju, again along those lines. You would I mean, he's your number one receiver. I like his chances. Obviously Ben as well too. But I got a funny feeling. Look, a great season for Ben doesn't have to be 5,000 yards. I mean, 4,200 yards and 30 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. I think I'd sign up. I'd sign off on that right now. On there. So I would be more inclined to go with the MVP for the offense being someone like Juju. And as far as defense goes, yeah, Watt's fine. Cameron Hayward, boy, you keep that guy surrounded by the talent that he's surrounded by. They can't block them all, man. And Cameron Hayward could have another 10 or 12 sack season here. This year. If he stays healthy, he's so hard to stop. So I think I would choose Juju and Cam Hayward.
Yeah, I mean, Juju is going to be, I think, the most obvious pick. I think Vance is interesting. I know the numbers might not be there, but I think he can make so many impact plays and so many big moments for this team that his value is going to be even more heightened and under the spotlight sans Antonio Brown. So I think Juju's an easy pick and a good one. But I'll go Vance just to be different. Defensively, Watt, for sure, it would probably be my pick, or the first defensive back to pick off 4 passes. They get a key. They get a key to the city. That's my stance.
Have a parade.
For real. Honestly.
They really should. I put this in my Friday questions that's going to go up Friday night on the site. Who's going to have more receptions in 2019? Dante Moncrief or Vance McDonald?
Oh, Dave, that is you always come up with these really good questions. Like it's that bookie background, gambling background that you have.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, that's a good one, right?
Yeah, no, that is a really good one because you got to juggle Vance's health versus Moncrief's playtime versus all these factors. What do we project? Did we project Moncrief podcast
we have
50 receptions,
55 to 65, right?
Yeah, is that what we had? I'm going to take Vance because, like I said, I think he could have that really big season. But I do understand there's an injury factor, and I think he's going to play 60% of the snaps, even though Jesse's not there. I just don't think they're going to need him as an every down guy because they want to kind of manage his reps a little bit. So, but I'll go Vance by nose.
Think Vance can hit 70?
That's a little pricey. I think 60 to 65, and Moncrief's in that 50 to 55 range. If I had to throw some ballpark numbers out at you,
I'm interested to see what where the readers come in on that one. I thought that was a pretty good one. There.
How many receptions did Vance have last year?
Like 55 or something, 58.
50 on the button, and he missed the one game. So I think he could do 60 to 65. That's where I'm at with him.
Let's see if I can find something else here from a reader. Let's see, Bush. I'm going to hate this one. You're going to hate this one as well, too, Alex. But we'll read it from, longtime listener from Denmark. Wow. And he says it's okay if I butcher his name. All right, Andreas Wendelbo Hushgard. I don't know. This guy.
You got Andreas. I think you're good.
Andreas,
you got a good start.
Okay, Andreas Wendelbo. Andreas, I'm sorry. You got to put that phonetic spelling in there, brother. But we appreciate you listening over there in Denmark. Boy, I can't wait. Scotland and Denmark. I'm a thing over there. or you are. And all right, here it is. I know you don't like hypotheticals. You're right there. But I've been wondering about the following since the draft. And now that Ryan Shazier has been out saying that he hopes to play again one day, I thought I would ask my go-to Steelers gurus. You're too kind there. How would an inside linebacker tandem of Bush and Shazier work? Would they complement each other? Would they compete for the same spot? Love to show on the website. Boy, that's a tough one, man, because really that's a bridge I hope we're crossing it, man.
Yeah.
I really do. I will just say this. I would think that Bush would be more of the Buck and Shazier would be more of the Mac. I'll just leave it at that.
I'd flip them. I'd have Bush at the Mac and Shazier at the Buck, but I understand they both kind of profile as both Mac linebackers, but when the talent is so great for both guys, you just put them on the field. You're not worried about positions because they'll figure it out. I mean, they're so good. So I would flip it, but
You
I
wouldn't
think
have to
it's a
worry
good
about a
problem.
dime safety, would you?
No, you would not. Well, let's like you said, Dave. I think you summed it up well. Let's hope that's a bridge we're crossing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like them kind of hypotheticals, Andreas, but I mean, I understand, and that's the only way we're gonna touch that one right there, I think. Let's
Yep.
see here. What else do we have here? Reese. Boy, we got one from Wells. Being from Wells. What's up with all these? We got a lot of over the pond guys here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Reese. Reese Ashman. Hello, I'm relatively new football and Steelers fan from Wales in the UK, and I really enjoy listening to the podcast. Help me understand more about. I wonder what I sound like. I mean, I already sound horrible probably to domestic people in the United States. I wonder what a redneck like me who stutters sounds like to people
They're listening to you. So,
overseas.
hey, they like it.
Really enjoyed listening to the podcast. Help me understand more about the game and Steelers organization. Being from Wales, I am a big rugby fan, and whilst he used the word whilst.
He's a lot smarter than us, Dave.
Right. Whilst rugby has a lot of specialist positions and skill sets, it seems like this is nothing compared to football. I was wondering about the different skill sets that are required for kick and punt return. This is a good question, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Required for kick and punt returns. To an inexperienced eye, it looks like they would be the same. But in Tuesday's podcast, Alex mentioned that Johnson may return kicks if Switzer doesn't make the roster, and Eli, if he makes it, may return punts. What's the difference in the skill set there, Alex?
From the Steelers' perspective and what they've talked about in Danny Smith, I mean, they can be similar. On punt returns, you're really looking for that quickness, that short area burst, because you're getting the ball and guys are right on top of you, so you have to be able to get away from traffic right away. Kick returns, obviously, you have more of a runway. Long speed's going to be more important. The real big difference, I would say, and it's important for both, but the way Danny Smith has talked about it, toughness on kick returns is actually a really critical factor. That's maybe one reason why someone like Trey Archer didn't work out there, because he wasn't a tough guy. I mean, think about a kick return. You're running full speed ahead into a group of guys that are running full speed towards you 40, 50 yards and trying to, just destroy your body. So you got to kind of have a bit of toughness and craziness to be willing to run into the fire like that. And it's not quite the same for punt returns. So I think that's one difference. Is for kick returns, I mean, yes, you want to have guys that can create big plays and have speed and make guys miss, but you better be tough and physical because the position's going to demand it. For punt returns, I really look at short area quickness and burst as the key traits there. And ball security is obviously very important for both.
I think ball tracking comes into it. I mean, obviously on deep kickoffs, just being able to be square and getting a nice running start. And be able to be square. I mean, you don't have guys bearing down on you as much. Whereas punt return, boy, you really got to have you got to be able to have that skill set of being able to know when to field the football. Mm-hmm. A, and B, be able to tuck that thing quick, man. I mean, you can't have those bobbles.
Well, same for kick return. To be fair, you can't. Well,
true, but I mean, it's just there's more room for error.
Okay, fair.
In there, because you don't have the guys bearing. If you bobble a punt return, that thing's probably going to be on the ground.
Yeah, fair point.
When it comes to that. So yeah, the ability to tuck those things and get going quickly. But with wide receivers, that's what they do. I mean, we see some of these, but it's also coming from a different angle too. You see Diontae Johnson. We talked about him having that short area. Using on those wide receiver screens, being able to get that ball, tuck it, and make three guys miss real quick. Well, that ball's coming from the side versus up over your head. Mm-hmm. As well too. So it's going to be a good question. Why hasn't Diontae gotten more work as a punt returner during college versus kickoff returns?
Yeah, I'd have to look at Toledo history, who was their punt returner back then. Injury concerns. I mean, they just didn't get reps here. They didn't want to put the same guy on both units, because if you lose that guy, then you got to replace both. It's all good questions. But I'm not. I think he can do both. I think he's got the potential at least to do both. But as you said, Dave, I think kick return and punt return techniques are different too, because on kick returns, like as you mentioned, you have to get a running start. If you watch Ryan Switzer real close, he's not catching the ball stagnant. His momentum's already going forward as he's catching the football. He usually lines up a little bit behind where the ball is going to land, and he runs into it, so he's going forward immediately as he catches the football. On punt returns, you are static when you catch it. You got to be square, secure, field the ball cleanly, and then you're going forward. So there's small technique differences in the way that you field the football that's interesting, that kind of helps talk about the differences between kick and punt returns.
And the thing that I didn't like in looking at some of those punt and kickoff returns with Diontae Johnson was the bobbling of the football, just not clean.
Yeah. Yep. You can't have any. I agree that obviously there's more consequences for it on punt returns when bobbling the football, but if you bobble on kick returns, you're getting taken off there too because the timing is so important. If you're late at all, if you're a half second behind on the play, those holes are going to close up fast.
All right, I think we got through. Let's see. Here's one quick one from Bryce. I think this one just came in. This is Bryce. Hope you enjoyed your holiday. I got 2 questions for Jens. How do you believe the loss of AB will affect the number of times Ben tries to stretch the field as well as his deep ball accuracy? He has shown a little bit of slippage with deep ball accuracy in recent years, but what effect will the loss of AB be in this area of Ben's game? Here's the thing. Ben was not good in the deep ball early in the season accuracy, but you remember the whole Wi-Fi thing, and look, that got on track, especially, he had that deep ball down the left sideline to AB in the game against the Falcons. And obviously, right from the game, I think the Panthers on, he seemed to be a lot better with his deep ball accuracy. Of course, James Washington didn't help him out on one, diving for the football where he shouldn't. That's not on Ben on that one there. So I guess he's saying the effect of times Ben tries to stretch the field. I think a lot of that's going to be on James Washington. How much confidence does Ben have on James Washington to go deep down the sideline, get those man coverage? Because rest assured, one thing that we do know is James Washington's going to be facing a lot of single coverage on the outside.
For sure. I don't think it'll change Ben's approach at all. He always wants to go deep. If you're one-on-one, he doesn't really care who you are. He's going to chuck it deep and hope you make a play. So I honestly don't think Ben's mentality is going to change. Now, effectiveness could be a different topic, but in terms of how often Ben will try it, I think he'll try it whenever the looks are appropriate to go deep. When he gets single high, gets one-on-one coverage, he's going to take his chance.
Ben loves to go deep. Chicks dig the deep ball.
Yeah, he's got that smart.
Yeah,
mentality.
Chicks dig the long ball, and Ben will try to get there. Will we see it to Juju on the outside in 2 wide receiver sets? Can Dante Moncrief, he's done okay, just okay, kind of in that category. Talking about Moncrief down the sideline there, but make no mistake about it. When Juju's going to get this attention that we expect Juju to get, especially in the opener against New England, there are going to be some situations on the outside where Ben's going to point that out. He's going to try to go over the top there, and if James Washington or Dante Moncrief or whoever can deliver in those one-on-one situation, deep ball timing type go patterns down, or post patterns, that's going to make Juju even that more dangerous, because teams at some point are going to say, man, we keep spending all this time making sure we got enough on him. They're killing us on the outside.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree.
Number 2, seeing that teams are playing more sub-package defense, I believe the Steelers need to take a page from the Patriots playoff playbook, line up Rosie Nix at fullback, and test the will of these smaller defenders more often. With this offensive line, we need to let them show that they can be better in short yardage and grinded out situation. Do you both agree or disagree? I don't think short yardage was such the problem last year, right, Alex?
I'd have to look at some of the numbers. They converted so much on the goal line. They run on that power with Foster and DeCastro early in the season.
Right,
but
8 touchdowns off the power,
Yeah, but Nix didn't play much last year. He played probably about half the snaps that he did the year before under Haley's last year. So some of that's obviously situational. So I wouldn't mind seeing Nix out there a little bit more. But it's the way the league's going. You have Ben. You have the receiver depth being really strong. You're going to throw the football a lot. That's just playing the hand that you're dealt.
If you put Nix on the field, it means somebody else ain't on it. And I love me some Roosevelt Nix. Don't get me wrong. But it limits you by one person what you can do in the passing game.
Now, if the tight ends struggle and you don't want to put out Grimble or Gentry, then I could see you going with 21 personnel instead of 12. That would make some sense, but I don't want to take Nix off too often at the expense of a receiver.
Even so, you're going to at max play him 10. Here's the thing. Yeah, I'm good when Rosie Nick's playing 10 snaps a game, but that's probably going to be a result of them having that fourth quarter lead we talked about earlier in the show,
Hmm.
and trying to own the football game late by running the football at will.
Yep, a lot of situational stuff with Rosie.
So you just don't put Roosevelt Next out there for 20 plays and
Hmm.
and, and think you're going to own the football game that way, Bryce.
Yeah,
In
but
my
I
opinion.
do get the principle that the league is cyclical. In 20 years from now, you may go back to that power smash mouth style of offense as defenses get lighter and faster, because it's all reflected on the college game. Because college, they don't use fullback at all, so the defense has to get smaller and lighter and faster, and so the NFL is going to have to do that too, because they really won't have a choice. And I could see some offense that it's kind of the pendulum's going to swing more back towards going bigger and stronger instead of trying to get faster than your opponent.
Right, they'll try to take advantage of that. They'll try to beat the athleticism with muscle.
Yeah, because it'll get to a point where you say we can't be faster than the defense because everyone on that defense is fast. So let's go the opposite way and let's go muscle. And like I said, it'll swing back to that. I mean, the NFL, as a whole, is cyclical. The NFL began with a single wing, and they brought it back in with Miami and Ronnie Brown and all that. So what's new is old. What's old is new.
All right, anything else on this 4th of July?
Nope. I think that's everything. Well, we will be back on Tuesday. Have a safe and happy rest of the weekend, Dave. And yeah, we'll be back on Tuesday to talk about I don't know what, but we'll find something to
Yeah,
discuss.
hopefully it's nothing negative that we have
Yeah.
to cover here. We're fine with having to try to create some topics here moving forward here, but maybe we'll talk about some of the unsuccessful runs, and maybe it'll give you some time to look at them as well, Alex, on 1st and 10 or less in the first quarter of games of what went wrong. Maybe we'll discuss that on Tuesday, and obviously we'll have John Eisenberg on Friday, hopefully, to discuss the Ravens and preview that. And hey, 3 weeks from today, or through by the time people listen to this, the first practice, training camp practice of 2019 will have taken place, and so we're almost there anyway. In the
Hmm.
meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do on this show and you want to donate and help out the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit the donate button up right navigational bar. Also, if you want a ad-free version and want to help out the site for $25 for a full calendar year, you can have an ad-free version of SteelersDepot.com by going to SteelersDepot.com and hitting the ad-free button up right navigational bar. Alex, have a great weekend. Everybody have a great weekend, a safe 4th of July weekend. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.